Okay, last lesson for the week. Yay, that deserves its own round of applause, right? Okay, so factoring and solving when a is greater than 1. So again, when we're looking at ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, when that number is not 1, that's when we have to do the AC method, which we talked about yesterday. And if you're like, I didn't watch that one, you might want to go back and do that just to give yourself a refresher on that. So the same thing that like the same order that we factored and solved when a equals 1, we do this here. So first we factor, and then we set each of the binomials equal to 0, and then we solve for x, right? So that process is the same as when a does equal 1. We just have a little bit of a different time when like factoring when a is not 1. All right, so 5x squared plus 13x plus 6 equals 0. First, in the AC method, remember you multiply 5 times 6. And so that's 30. So my AC is 30. B is 13. So I have to figure out how I'm going to multiply to 30 and add to 13. Well, I think that's going to be 10 times 3. And it is. So remember, I split up 13. So I write 5x squared plus 10x plus 3x plus 6 equals 0. And then if you recall, I put this in boxes. So I have 5x squared, there's my dog again, plus 10x plus 3x plus 6. And I factor the top. So greatest common factor of 5x squared and 10x is 5x. Greatest common factor of 3x and 6 is plus 3. Greatest common factor of 5x squared and 3x is just x. Greatest common factor of 10x plus 6 is plus 2. So I take 5x plus 3 and x plus 2, and I set it equal to 0, and I solve. And these I can't just take like the opposite. Well, this one I can. The x plus 2 I can. But 5x plus 3 I actually want to, look through and solve. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. So I get 5x equals negative 3. Divide by 5. My answer is x equals negative 3/5. That's answer number 1. X plus 2 equals 0. I'm going to take the opposite, and it's negative 2. If you don't remember that, do x plus 2 equals 0. Subtract 2 from both sides and get x equals negative 2. So those are my two answers there. All right. Take a look at the next one. I have 4x squared minus 4x minus 15 equals 0. 4 times minus 15, so AC, is negative 60. And then my B is negative 4. C is negative, B is negative. So these are going to be opposite signs, and my larger factor is going to be bigger. Okay, so there's a ton of ways to multiply to 60. So the only one that would give you a difference of 4 would be 6 and 10. But you could have like 1 and 60 and 2 and 30 and 3 and 20 and 4 and 15 and 5 and 12 and 6 and 10. In the interest of time and space, I'm not going to write all that down. But it is going to be 6 and 10. And I said that your larger factor here is going to be negative because that's a negative B. So it's 6 times negative 10. So rewrite B. So 4x squared plus 6x minus 10x minus 15 equals 0. And then do the boxes. So I have 4x squared plus 6x minus 10x minus 15. Factor the top. Greatest common factor of 4x squared and 6x is 2x. Greatest common factor of minus 10x minus 15 is negative 5. Greatest common factor of 4x squared and negative 10x is 2x. And again, I will remind you, you only take that negative if it's a leading negative, meaning if it's either on the top if you're going down or on the left if you're going left to right. And then 6x and 15 is plus 3. So 2x minus 5 times 2x plus 3 equals 0. set those equal to 0 and solve. Sorry, I did that. Started writing a plus, but it's a minus. So 2x plus 3 equals 0. Add 5 to both sides. I got 2x equals 5. Divide by 2. I got x equals 5 over 2. Here, I would subtract 3 from both sides. So I get 2x equals negative 3. Divide by 2. And x equals negative 3 halves. All right. Last example here. I have 12x squared minus 5x minus 3 equals 0. 12 times negative 3 is negative 36. So I have to multiply negative 36 and add to negative 5 again. If C is negative and B is negative, one is positive, one's negative, larger factor is negative. So this is going to be 9 and 4 because they have a difference of 5. And I said the larger factor is negative. So, excuse me, your 9 is negative. So split up your B term into like 5. Negative 5 becomes negative 9 plus 4. So I have 12x squared minus 9x plus 4x minus 3 equals 0. Again, if this process doesn't make sense to you, I would, again, go back and rewatch the factoring quadratics or factoring trinomials when A is not 1 video, because I really go through and explain it a lot more. This one I'm kind of like running through it pretty quick. All right, so 12x squared minus 9x, and I apologize, I'm still sniffing. I still can't breathe very well, which is unfortunate. Plus 4x minus 3. So 12x squared minus 9x, greatest common factor is 3x. 4x minus 3, greatest common factor is 1. On the left side, 12x squared and 4x, greatest common factor is 4x. On the right, negative 9x and minus 3. They do have a leading negative there, so I have to take minus 3. So I have 3x plus 1 times 4x minus 3 equals 0. And again, set these equal to 0 and solve. So I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. So I get 3x equals 1. Divide by 3 and x equals 1. Oops, sorry, 3x would equal to negative 1. X equals negative 1/3. That's a 3. And then on this one, I would add 3 to both sides. So I get 4x equals 3. Divide both sides by 4. So x equals 3 over 4. And I know that's like, it looks like a lot of work to do on there. These are the longest ones in terms of factoring. All right, last thing, again, you will find that sometimes these are not ready to be solved. So what do quadratic equations have to be set equal to in order to solve? We know that it's 0. So you would have to, like in 4x squared minus 4x equals 5, that 5's got to go. So we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. And I have x squared minus 4x minus 5 equals 0. Remember, please make sure you write it in standard form. So your x squared term, then your x term, then your constant. So you would factor this one. Ooh, this is an easy one because A is 1. So you're just looking for numbers that multiply negative 5 and add to negative 4. So that would be negative 5 and positive 1. So you have x minus 5 times x plus 1 equals 0. And then here are just your opposites. So you have x minus 5 equals 0, so x equals 5. X plus 1 equals 0, so x equals negative 1. And if you just watched that and you're like, what on earth did you just do? Then I would say that you probably did not watch the video on factoring and solving quadratics or solving quadratics by factoring when A equals 1. So go back and watch that. All right. And then this one, you would have to get that 8x or negative 8x over there by adding 8x to both sides, and it has to go here. So make sure that you put it in the correct spot. So it'll be 3x squared plus 8x plus 5 equals 0. And then you would just factor that and solve. So you try to do it if you want. So 3 times 5, this is AC, remember, because that's A is greater than 1. So AC is 15. I need to multiply to 15 and add to 8. So it'll be 3 and 5. So split up 8 So 3x squared plus 3x plus 5x plus 5 equals 0. Put it in the boxes. 3x squared plus 3x plus 5x plus 5. Factor the top. Greatest common factor of 3x and squared and 3x is 3x. Greatest common factor of 5x squared and 5 is plus 5. Greatest common factor of 3x squared plus 5x is x. And of 3x and 5 is plus 1. So I have 3x plus 5 times x plus 1 equals 0. This one I can just make it x equals -1, so that's easy. Because remember, you just take the opposite if there's nothing in front of the x here. And then 3x plus 5 equals 0. I'd subtract 5 from both sides, so I'm running out of paper here. So 3x equals -5. Divide both sides by 3, and I get x equals -5 over 3. All right, so those are your notes for today. Your optional homework assignment is this 9-6 practice B, and 14 through 22 are the ones that look like what we did before. So on these, let's see, this is, what we did today, excuse me. So this is like a straightforward AC method, factor and solve. This is a straightforward AC method and solve. And then 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, you have to maneuver around first. So remember, like, these have to be set equal to 0. Take a look at like number 20, and 18 is the same way. So usually my suggestion to you is to move whichever one only has one term on it, right? So you have 3 terms total. So one side's going to have 2 terms and one side's going to have 1 term. And I would say always move the 1 term over to the 2 term side because it's less work. However, if your 1 term side is your squared term and it's negative, and it's negative, you're going to want to make sure you want your squared term to be positive. Okay. So in this instance, I would move this. So I'd add 8x squared, right? So 8x squared plus 2x minus 1 equals 0. Now, if you take a look at number 20, my squared term is by itself on its side, but it's positive. And if I move it over here, it'll be negative. And then you have to factor out a negative out of the entire thing. And nobody wants to do that. So I would say move both of those. So you're going to subtract 13x and subtract 7. So you have 2x squared minus 13x minus 7 equals 0. That's just my suggestion for you. So it'll just make it easier on you if you have a leading, if your x squared term is positive. All right, don't worry about 23. And then for practice, you certainly can do 5 through 13. And then, of course, the zero product property too, but you don't have to. All right, we don't have to do any of it, but practice-wise for stuff for today, I might do 14 through 22. Okay? All right. Thanks, guys. See you later.